Imagine a goddess so fierce, so powerful, that her very presence can change the fate of the universe. A deity who embodies both life and death, creation and destruction, light and dark. This is Kali, often misunderstood, sometimes feared, but ultimately revered as the mother of liberation. In today's video, we'll dive deep into the terrifyingly beautiful story of Kali, the goddess who defies all norms. Stay tuned to discover why Kali is not just a destroyer, but the ultimate force of transformation in Hindu mythology. The birth of Kali, born from divine fury. The birth of Kali is one of the most dramatic and intense moments in Hindu mythology, and it begins with a battle that seems impossible to win. The gods, protectors of the universe, were faced with a terrifying demon named Raktabija. This demon had a horrific boon. Every drop of his blood that touched the ground would give birth to a new Raktabija, each one as powerful and deadly as the first. No matter how many of his clones were slain, they kept multiplying, and the gods were overwhelmed. In their desperation, the gods called upon the goddess Durga, who was the embodiment of divine power, to defeat Raktabija. But as Durga prepared for battle, the demon's ability to create clones from his blood seemed unstoppable. The gods were in peril, and it was in this moment of crisis that the divine forces decided something far more intense and powerful was needed. From the forehead of Durga, a new, terrifying form emerged. Kali, with eyes blazing like fire, appeared in a form unlike any other. She was dark, fierce, and wild. Her very presence radiated untamed power. Kali's very existence was born out of divine fury. Her body was covered in a skin as black as the night sky, symbolizing the infinite and all-consuming nature of the universe. The darkness of her skin represented the cosmic void from which all things are created and eventually return. Kali was not merely a goddess, but a force of nature. The moment she arrived on the battlefield, she unleashed her wrath with ferocity. She wore no armor, for her body itself was the armor of the gods, her rage unstoppable and invincible. She was a goddess, not bound by any laws, not restrained by any boundaries. She was the essence of time and space, the energy that created and destroyed all things. Kali began her massacre by attacking Raktabija's army with unparalleled speed and ferocity. Every demon she struck was consumed by her destructive energy. And yet, as predicted, Raktabija's blood fell to the ground, and new demons sprang forth. But Kali had a solution. Her tongue extended from her mouth and began to lap up every drop of Raktabija's blood before it could touch the ground. No blood could fall, and no more clones could emerge. In that moment, Kali's rage intensified. She had no mercy, no hesitation. She fought with the unrelenting fury of the divine, embodying the destruction necessary to bring balance to the universe. Kali's presence alone altered the course of the battle. Her power transcended that of any demon. With one final blow, Kali cut off Raktabija's head, and from that moment, she stood victorious, having ended the chaos he had unleashed. Kali's form, a fearsome appearance. Kali's appearance is one of the most striking and fearsome in all of Hindu mythology, but behind every terrifying detail lies profound symbolism, conveying the deepest truths about life, death, and transformation. Kali is often depicted with dark, almost black skin, and her form radiates both darkness and intensity. This dark complexion is not merely for shock value. It symbolizes the infinite, the vast, and the all-encompassing nature of the universe. Kali's blackness represents the void from which everything emerges and to which everything eventually returns. In Hindu philosophy, the color black is a symbol of the cosmic, the unmanifest, the mystery of life and death, and the great cycle of creation and destruction. Her face, often shown with a fierce, wild expression, is a reflection of her boundless energy and her intense will. She is not a goddess who conforms to conventional beauty standards or human expectations. Instead, she embodies a raw and untamed power that stands beyond human comprehension. Kali's face is often depicted with wide, glaring eyes, burning with divine rage and wisdom. Her gaze is not one of fear, but of fierce determination and focus, symbolizing the unrelenting nature of life's challenges and the need to confront them without hesitation or avoidance. Kali's hair is wild and untamed, flowing in all directions like a storm. This imagery speaks to her freedom and unpredictability, as well as the chaos inherent in the universe. Her disheveled hair is a visual representation of the breakdown of societal norms, a reminder that true liberation lies in the rejection of the restrictions placed upon us by the world. Kali's hair suggests that she is not bound by rules or structures. She is the cosmic force that transcends the limitations of the material world. Around Kali's neck, you'll often see a necklace made of skulls or severed heads. These skulls represent the lives that have passed, the lives that are no longer part of the cycle of birth and death. The necklace of skulls is also a symbol of the ultimate truth, that life is impermanent and death is inevitable. Kali is the goddess who reminds us of the transient nature of existence. Nothing, no matter how powerful or mighty, lasts forever. In one of her hands, Kali holds a sword or scythe. This weapon is not just an instrument of destruction, but also a symbol of wisdom and clarity. Kali's sword cuts through illusion, ignorance, and attachment, helping her devotees sever ties to the past, the ego, and anything that hinders their spiritual growth. The sword represents the power to liberate, to cut through falsehoods, and to free the soul from its bondage to the material world. In another hand, Kali is often shown holding the severed head of a demon. This head symbolizes victory over the forces of darkness and ego. It represents Kali's triumph over the delusions and attachments that bind us to the illusion of permanence. Holding this head, Kali shows that she is not only the destroyer of demons, but also the destroyer of the ego, the self-centered desires that keep us trapped in the cycle of suffering. Kali's tongue, which is often depicted as hanging out of her mouth, is another iconic feature. While it may seem unsettling, it holds a powerful meaning. Her tongue is shown dripping with the blood of demons, representing Kali's unquenchable thirst for destruction and her willingness to consume everything that is unworthy. Kali's fierce, terrifying appearance is not meant to be feared in the way we fear the unknown or the monstrous. It is meant to inspire awe and respect. She is the embodiment of raw cosmic energy, a goddess who is not defined by human notions of beauty or normalcy. Instead, Kali's form is a reminder of the vastness and intensity of the universe itself. Kali's dual nature, destroyer and creator. Kali's nature is profoundly dual, embodying the powerful and often paradoxical forces of destruction and creation. While she is most famously known as a goddess of destruction, her role is not simply to annihilate. Instead, Kali is a force of transformation, destroying to make way for something new, clearing the path for regeneration, and creating through her very act of destruction. This duality is what makes her one of the most complex and fascinating figures in Hindu mythology. Kali's destructive power is vital to the balance of the universe. Destruction, in her hands, is not a negative force, but an essential part of the cosmic cycle. In Hindu philosophy, everything in the universe is in a constant state of flux. Everything is born, exists, decays, and eventually returns to the source. Kali, as the goddess of destruction, governs this natural process, ensuring that the old, the worn out, and the unnecessary are cleared away. She removes what is no longer serving its purpose, including ego, attachment, and illusion. Her destruction is a cosmic necessity, a force that ensures the cycle of life continues uninterrupted. When we think of destruction, we often associate it with loss, chaos, and harm. But Kali's destruction is not the chaotic or meaningless violence we may first imagine. Her destruction has a purpose. It creates space for new life, new possibilities, and new beginnings. Through her fierce annihilation, Kali helps the universe evolve. Without destruction, there can be no creation. Kali, as the destroyer, prepares the ground for the birth of the new, just as a forest fire might clear away old growth to make room for fresh life to emerge. But Kali is not just the destroyer, she is also the creator. In her destructive actions, there is always the potential for new life. In her ability to break down the old, Kali paves the way for the emergence of the new. She is not simply ending things, she is transforming them. This is why Kali is often seen as a goddess who is not bound by the limitations of time and space. She stands beyond the material world, guiding the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Kali and Shiva, the balance between life and death. The relationship between Kali and Shiva is one of the most profound and symbolic partnerships in Hindu mythology. It is a union that represents the eternal balance between the forces of life and death, creation and destruction, and stillness and movement. Together, they embody the dynamic interplay of opposites, illustrating the harmonious cycle that governs the universe. Kali, as we know, is the goddess of destruction and transformation, while Shiva is the god of destruction in a more subtle, formless sense, often referred to as the destroyer in the trinity of Hindu gods, Trimurti. However, their roles are not as simple as one being the destroyer and the other being the creator. In truth, both Kali and Shiva are intertwined in a dance of cosmic unity where their powers flow into one another. Kali's active, fiery energy is complemented by Shiva's passive, tranquil nature, and together, They form the perfect balance in the universe. Kali's wild, untamed form is often depicted standing or dancing on top of Shiva. This image is deeply symbolic. Shiva, who represents the ultimate consciousness or awareness, remains calm and motionless, even as Kali's chaotic, destructive energy erupts around him. Her feet pressing on his body may seem alarming at first, but it represents the deep truth that destruction, in all its forms, cannot exist without consciousness. When Kali stands on Shiva, she is not triumphing over him in a battle for dominance. Rather, she is engaged in a sacred dance of creation and destruction, of life and death. Shiva's stillness provides the foundation for Kali's movement, and her movement gives life to the world. Kali's worship, rituals, and symbolism. Kali's worship often takes place in temples dedicated to her, but it also occurs in home shrines, during festivals, and even in remote sacred spaces in the wilderness. In the most ancient forms of worship, Kali was often revered as a primal goddess associated with the natural world and the fierce aspects of life, such as fertility, death, and rebirth. Her followers view her as a goddess who not only destroys the physical world, but also clears the spiritual obstacles that prevent a person from reaching enlightenment. The rituals dedicated to Kali are often intense and filled with fervor. They may include chanting, dancing, and reciting mantras, especially during her most important festival, Kali Puja, which is celebrated in autumn, particularly during the Diwali festival in West Bengal and other parts of India. During Kali Puja, devotees gather to honor Kali with prayers, music, and devotional songs, often in the dead of night, symbolizing Kali's presence in the darkness and her power to destroy ignorance. This ritual is a celebration of Kali's transformative power, recognizing that destruction is a necessary and powerful force in the universe, which brings about new beginnings and opportunities for growth. Chanting mantras, particularly the Kali Gayatri mantra and the Kali Ashtakshara mantra, is also a significant aspect of Kali worship. These mantras invoke Kali's power and help purify the mind and spirit of the devotee. The repetition of these sacred sounds is believed to connect the devotee with Kali's divine energy and allow her to enter their lives, granting them strength, protection, and spiritual insight. Through these mantras, Kali's devotees seek liberation from the bondage of the material world and ask for her blessings to destroy the inner darkness of ignorance and attachment. Conclusion: Kali, the goddess of liberation and power. As we come to the end of our exploration into Kali's myth, symbolism, and worship, it becomes clear that Kali is much more than a fearsome deity associated with destruction. She embodies the transformative force of the universe, the power that breaks down the old to make space for the new. Kali is not just a destroyer in the conventional sense. She is a goddess of liberation, a liberator of the soul, free from the attachments and illusions that bind it to the material world. In Kali's essence lies the power to strip away the ego, to sever the ties to the false identities that limit us. She challenges us to face our own darkness, the parts of ourselves we fear, the attachments we cling to, and the illusions that prevent us from seeing our true nature. Kali's fierce and untamed energy reminds us that true freedom comes not through avoiding destruction, but by embracing it. In the end, Kali stands as a beacon of liberation. She invites us to surrender our fears, our attachments, and our egoic desires, so that we may discover our true selves, our divine essence. She is the reminder that, in the face of destruction, there is always the promise of renewal. Kali's dance of destruction is ultimately a dance of freedom, the freedom to live fully, authentically, and in alignment with the divine rhythm of the universe. To understand Kali is to understand the very nature of existence itself, a constant flow of destruction and creation, of death and rebirth, of darkness and light. She is the goddess who guides us through these cycles, teaching us that every end is a new beginning, and that within every moment of destruction, there lies the potential for divine transformation. Kali is not just a goddess to be feared, but one to be revered, for she holds the keys to true freedom, power, and liberation.